Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're unpacking a text that, honestly, is going to blow your mind a little bit. It's called 𝔰𝔞𝔦𝔫, Are You Alone Too? Now, if you just glance at it with its erratic formatting and wild spelling, you might think, okay, this is pure chaos. But stick with me here, because what we're actually looking at is a totally grounded, deeply intentional, and incredibly skilled piece of sacrosanct high art. It's actually a collection of love poems, and the author masterfully balances raw human suffering with what we can only really describe as a state of divine intoxication. It's a wild ride, and I'm super excited to walk you through it and reveal the hidden emotional architecture right beneath the surface.
Okay, let's dive into this. Literally right from page 1, the poet just yanks us directly into their rawest expression. I'm falling, I need you now. Just look at that repetition. Look at that immediate, unfiltered vulnerability. This isn't some gentle, polite little introduction to heartbreak. No way. It is a dramatic, sudden plunge into emotional descent. The author is laying out the stakes from word 1. We're witnessing this fall from grace, the sudden loss of everything, and that sheer absolute desperation that hits when love is just abruptly ripped away from you.
So, that brings us to section 1, the art of the fall.
To really understand this deliberate descent, we need to look at the earthly setting here. Check out the creator, standing right there in a very real, modern, urban environment. You've got the street, city lights, a modern building in the background. They are firmly planted in our reality. And this is an absolutely crucial detail because it anchors all that intense, abstract inner turmoil we read about to a tangible, physical space. It's a great reminder that these profound spiritual crises, they don't just happen in ancient monasteries or on mountaintops. They happen right here, on city streets, in the dead of night.
And this brilliantly illustrates one of the author's most powerful techniques. Look at this stark contrast on the screen. On one side, you have your modern text-speak, the classic OMG, WOU, your everyday digital breakup shorthand. But then, right on the other side, we see deeply traditional, high religious vocabulary. Words like holy, saint, Lord of Lords. It's super jarring, but honestly, in the best way possible. The creativity at play here is just phenomenal. The author is using this juxtaposition to clash the mundane melodrama of a modern digital breakup with the grand, sweeping language of historical saintly suffering. It literally elevates a modern breakup to a biblical scale.
Let's move right into section 2, melodrama and modern pain.
This is where we see the author using internet slang as a satirical mask for a very genuine emotional purgatory. Take a look at this incredibly frantic line. Die with me, I'm doing great. The spelling is completely falling apart. The emotion is so incredibly desperate, and then, bam, it's immediately followed by this totally unconvincing, performative, I'm doing great. Right here is where you really see the grounded, emotional balance and the deep intention hiding behind all that chaotic typography. The poet knows exactly what they're doing. They're performing that relatable chaos of trying to seem perfectly okay when you absolutely, 100% are not. It's that urge to ironically laugh through excruciating pain.
But this pain isn't meaningless. Which brings us to section 3, suffering as spiritual experience.
As the text progresses, it actually transforms the mundane agony of heartbreak into a crucible for spiritual awakening. Just read this incredible quote. Light catches pain like a fishnet, ruled by Christ and feeding 5K. Wow. Let's unpack that religious imagery for a second. The author is clearly referencing the biblical miracle of Christ feeding the 5,000 with a few fish. By using this specific metaphor, the poet is taking their intensely personal, isolating suffering and scaling it all the way up to the level of a sacred miracle. It's like the pain isn't just hurting them anymore. It's being harvested, gathered up in a net, and transformed into something vast, healing, and completely divine.
And if you ever doubted the skill here or thought this was just some random outpouring of grief, check out how the author actively maps out their own spiritual trials. They explicitly list these stages for us. First, you have the guilt and chaos of biblical crimes. Then comes the impressive imperfect evolution, spelled with an exclamation point, naturally, as they start to grow from the pain. And finally, they view the entirety of the suffering as experiments of experience, / By mapping these stages out, the poet is essentially imposing order on the chaos. It proves this is a methodical, intentional course charted straight through the dark.
Now, as the abstract darkness begins to take shape, we enter section 4, personifying the divine muse. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the introduction of this magnificent entity, Saint Venus. The abstract emotions of grief and longing are given a physical, divine presence to guide the poet. They define her as the goddess of Brevin, their muse, their enchanted mistress, and good wife. I mean, what a brilliant, unique creation. The poet has essentially taken the classical goddess of love, Venus, and canonized her as a saint. She is the literal embodiment of the Psalms of wanting. So instead of suffering alone, the author is manifesting a divine companion out of their own longing to help find closure.
And we actually get a visual face for this personification. We definitely have to look at the artwork here. It features this abstract, ghostly, almost ethereal figure wearing a hat. This image perfectly embodies St. Venus. It's blurry, it's dreamlike, and entirely out of focus, which represents exactly how these personified emotions act as a spiritual guide. She's basically the ghost in the poet's machine, right? A divine muse summoned straight from the depths of their purgatory to walk them toward the light.
And all of that guidance leads us right into Section 5, Elevation and Self-Love.
Let's move to and see how this builds visually, because this represents Chapter 8 in the source material, where the poet finally achieves elevation. Take a look at these two images. On the left, we've got this dark, overcast city street, representing the tired rituals and the gray, stuck reality of the poet's early suffering. But then, look at the scene on the right. It is a breathtaking, violetly vibrant pink and blue sky, which the author describes as having pianos in the skies and good magic. It's just a stunning visual metaphor. It contrasts the dark purgatory of the past with the incredibly bright, expansive climax of their spiritual healing.
So, what's the ultimate realization when that sky finally clears and they meet their true, healed self? We hear it right in these bullet points. The poet says, "I love them." A voice asks, "Who?" And the triumphant answer is, "I love me, I do. Love, 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 love me." You guys, it's ecstatic. It's almost delirious. Because the ultimate goal of all of this wasn't actually about getting the lost lover back. Not at all. It was about this triumphant, grounded discovery of absolute self-love and divine connection.
And then, the poem ends on this single, perfectly spaced word, wasted. I love this. After the chaotic fall, the miraculous healing, summoning a literal saint, and that ecstatic realization of self-love, the poet is completely spent. This one word signifies total divine intoxication. It's that profound, bone-deep exhaustion that only comes at the end of a true, grueling spiritual journey. They have literally poured every single ounce of their soul out onto the page.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a question to chew on. Are our modern digital expressions of heartbreak, the frantic texts, the typos, the masked emojis, are they truly any different from the sacred suffering psalms of the saints? Honestly, this text challenges us to see the sacrosanct high art hiding right there in our everyday emotional expressions. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the beautiful divine intoxication of Fallen. Until next time, keep looking for the meaning hiding right behind the chaos.